So am I correct to believe that we are going to
Are we
call the
looking?
meeting to
We got
order?
it. Got it. I'm going to hit record
There
and
we go.
admit all. And you are welcome to start the meeting, Mauricio.
I appreciate you.
And I will let George in when he gets here, unfortunately. He's not here yet. And I'm going to pin you to the top.
Thank you very much.
There you go.
Good evening, everyone. Good to see some familiar faces from our previous meeting. I appreciate you all having me once more. And if we are ready to call this meeting to order, I believe there is a piece of ritual that I'm just familiar with that I'm very excited for. So Tom, whenever you're ready.
Okay.
Thank you, Tom. And how about making this the sound of all of us just being fully present here with everyone, with your colleagues? Let's just arrive. Let's live the rest of the day as whatever it was. And let's just imagine what it means to be here in presence with everyone in dignity and respect. Thank you all. Okay. So if that sounds about right, we'd like to start moving the agenda forward. And the very first thing is that we have is announcements. Is that correct? And so do we have any announcements that I'd like to present?
I have some announcements.
Okay, Stephen, please go ahead.
Our election is coming up soon, so I thought I would just go over the election timeline with folks really quickly. The time to submit petitions, advisory petitions, has passed, and we didn't get any this year. The next deadline is the candidates' statements. They must be submitted by 8 p.m. on August 20th. If they come in at 8:01, that's too late. You can run as write-in at that point, but we need all your information by 8 p.m. on the 20th. The next deadline after that is the deadline to register to vote. If you are a fair member, if you've received a wristband or a worker day pass within the last 3 years, you may register to vote. That deadline is 8 p.m. on September 21st. If you're not sure if you're registered or not, you may submit registration by then, and you can check your status by September 30th. If you haven't received a ballot, we will be sending the ballots out shortly after the 21st. The annual meeting will be held on October 14th. That will be a hybrid meeting, so that we will have a live component somewhere, and then it will also be streamed on Zoom and YouTube. Ballots will be due at 8 p.m. on October 21st. And again, that's 8 p.m. sharp. We will not accept any ballots after 8 p.m. on October 21st. And then we will count the ballots on the 22nd and announce the winners of the election then. We'll be electing 4 directors for 3-year terms this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. I see AJ has hand, and I saw Paxton coming right after, and then I'll move next. AJ, please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to do a quick announcement about what is a not so silent killer in our community right now, and that is fentanyl. In my real life work, I work with folks struggling with addiction, and fentanyl has hit our community very hard. Just this past weekend, we lost 8 folks, and the weekend before, we lost about 16. It is hitting our community harder than you can imagine right now. And so this is a plea for everyone who is going to festivals or going to party. Please be safe out there. If you are around a bunch of people and you can get a Narcan training, please do that. Please be safe out there. It is no joke. People are dying. And I want you all to be safe. Thank you.
Thank you, AJ. Okay, let's have Paxton and then Cynthia. Paxton, please come in.
Mine's more fair oriented. The fair evaluation meeting is going to be August 20th, the day after the picnic, at the Entertainment Fire Pit. It is kind of an open space thing. And we generally, it runs from 11 to 2 to 3:30, somewhere in that range. It depends on when people want to quit. Basically, we open it up to anybody has topics they want to talk about this year's fair. They put it on a piece of paper, we group them together, and then develop some breakout groups to talk about the subjects. It's always a very interesting conversation, and really encourage people to come to the fair evaluation meeting. Thank you very much. Entertainment Fire Pit, 11 o'clock in the morning.
Thank you, Paxton. All right, Cynthia, please.
Yeah, hi everyone. I just wanted to let you know that the carbon neutrality working group has put together a transportation survey, and it got posted, thank you, Vanessa, on the .net site today. So if you go to the .net site, you'll see a link to, there's a QR code and there's a link to our transportation survey. We're still continuing to kind of gather data so we can know how to let people know or come up with strategies about carpooling, reducing our carbon footprint. There's also some information there about our phase 1 project that we did a couple of years ago with Portland State. So if you would go there and take a look at it, it's a quick survey and it's anonymous. And so just let us know. And we thank you very much for participating and carpooling and reducing your carbon footprint however you can. Thanks.
Appreciate you, Cynthia. Norma, please come in. Norma?
Sorry, it just took me a second to unmute. Yes, the teddy bears are going to be out in the woods on August 19th. So please join us for the picnic, and from 2 to 8, the sugar beets are going to be rocking out. We'll have grilled chicken and veggie burgers, and please bring whatever sides and dessert you'd like to for yourself and your group. It's not a potluck. So but we'd love for you to bring your own stuff, and you're welcome to camp Saturday night. No camping Sunday, but you can camp Saturday night and then go to the evaluation meeting, the next day. So we'll see you there at the teddy bear picnic. Oh, and for those of you who are friends of Denny Geeler, there's going to be a memorial for Denny during the picnic. So come and honor the voice of the Oregon Country Fair.
Thank you, Norma. I say Stephen wants to come in once more. Please come in.
Yeah, Peach's announcement reminded me that I forgot to mention that all the election information is on the .net site now. So if you just go to the .net site, there's an election link right on the landing page, and you can get all the election information you need. Thanks.
Thank you, Stephen. Any more announcements before we move on to the next item? All right, thank you. So we have 2 minutes to approve. We have the minutes of June 25th, and then we'll do the July 16th. So do we have a motion to?
I move.
Thank you very much. That was Lisa, correct?
Yes.
Thank you, Lisa. Do we have a second?
I second, Tom.
Thank you, Tom. I get to exercise a superpower that I was just informed I have. Are we okay with an unanimous approval? Do I have a yes from our board members? Can I see thumbs up? Look at that. Perfect. Oh, John Silverman. Okay. I believe, so then now we're going to move through names at a time. So John Alexander.
Approve. Thanks.
Thank you, John. Sandra?
Yeah, approve.
Thank you. George?
Approve.
Paxton?
Approve.
Tom?
Approve.
AJ?
Approve.
Kevin?
Approve.
Lisa?
Yes, I approve.
Thank you. Anne?
Yes.
Arna,
Yes.
Sue, is Sue around?
Approve.
Thank you, Sue. All right, this, and then John, of course.
Abstain.
Thank you, John. I see, I didn't, did I
Oh.
cover all the board members? Okay, beautiful. Thank you, Kirsten. All right. Now, moving into the approval of the minutes of July 16th. Do we have a motion?
I move.
Thank you. That's AJ. I'm gonna try once more. Do we have
I'll second.
Thank you, Lisa. And do we have unanimous consent? No?
I'm going to abstain again.
Okay, so let me go name by name once more. So John Alexander,
Approve.
thank you. Sandra,
Approve.
George,
Approve.
Paxton,
Approve.
Tom,
Approve.
AJ,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes, approve.
Lisa,
Yes.
Anne,
Yes.
Arna,
Yes.
Sue,
Yes.
and then John.
Abstain.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Behind the curtains, are we now able to move on to our next item? Is that correct? Thank you very much, Kirsten. All right, now we're going to move on to the agenda approval. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda for today that I'm hoping everybody received?
Oh,
Arna, thank you very much. Do we have a second?
no, I'm not doing that.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Go ahead, Arna.
I would
Let's
like
go
to
ahead.
actually, I'd like to amend the agenda.
I had my hand up.
Yeah, and let
Point
Lisa
of
do
order,
it first.
please. Point of order, we need to have the motion to approve the agenda first and then the amendment. Then we vote on the amendment, then we vote on the amended agenda. Thanks.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a fancy feet dance that I'm learning myself. So we have the main motion, right? And then after we get a first and a second, then we make the amendment. Is that correct, Stephen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So,
Okay. So
Okay,
Lisa,
then yes.
I'll just move to approve the minutes, the agenda as it is now.
Sure,
thank you,
I'll
Arna.
second.
Lisa. Beautiful. And so now, Stephen, is it correct? That's when we can interject to make an amendment. Is that correct?
Yes.
And
Okay,
that's
so
what I
Arna,
had
we
my
go.
hand up for.
Oh, perfect. Lisa, look at this. We're figuring this out.
I would like to move the motion to appoint AJ Jackson as president from new business to old business.
Excellent. So do we have a second on the amendment?
I'll second.
Thank you, Arna. So I'm gonna try once more. Do we have oh, Kirsten, please, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can I ask that motion include the detail that it be moved to the first position of old business so it gets taken care of tonight and doesn't get listed below other old business items, so that the motion reads move to elect AJ Jackson to president from new to old business first position. Thank you.
So that would be like a friendly amendment, right? Do you agree with that amendment, Lisa?
Yes.
I can't make an amendment. I'm just asking if the amendment, the motion can be amended.
Yes, I agree to that.
Okay. So do we have a second for this amendment?
I'll second that.
Beautiful. Okay, so do we have a unanimous consent?
Move.
Beautiful. Okay. Thank you very much. So that moves and it's approved. No, hold on. I think and then now we need to approve the motion to approve the agenda with the amendment. Is that correct, Stephen?
Yes.
We have a hand in the chat too.
Oh, I'll do that. Sorry.
Oh, yes, John, please come in.
Oh, Okay, now I'm getting
Oh,
lost in my
Oh, I'm so
buttons.
sorry. Was it?
Someone else had a hand, but I didn't do my hand right. I should have put it in the minutes, but just real quick. So I want to check with Stephen. The point of order is a motion, a second, and then discussion, which can include amendments. So just make sure that's when we discuss the motion as well. So that after the motion is seconded, that it's open for discussion, correct?
Correct. Actually, the amendments can be made as part of the board discussion at any time.
Yep.
But only one
Thank
amendment
you.
at a time.
Great.
So we're currently in the discussion space for that second
Correct.
motion, correct?
Yeah.
And this is where you'd like to come in, John Silvermoon, is that correct?
Yeah,
Please come in.
one of the agenda items for new business on establishing a director's rules of order. The manner in which this particular agenda item made it to the agenda, I think is dangerously close to the board actually having a serial meeting via email. And that's why my name is not on it, not because I oppose having this as an agenda item, but the process by which it got to the agenda, I think, was not a transparent process. And I think it's something that we really do need to look at moving forward.
Thank you, John. Would this be a note of amendment within the agenda? I'm looking for advice here from those who are familiar with the procedure.
I think it's just a comment.
Just a comment.
Yeah.
Check. All right. So in that case, can we make a motion to approve the amended agenda for today?
I move to approve the amended agenda for today.
Thank you, Lisa. Do we have a second?
I'll second. Okay.
Perfect. Paxton and Arner. And I'll ask, just to try to be expeditious. Do we have a unanimous consent? Beautiful. Then it passes. Excellent. So let's keep moving through today's agenda. Next is membership comments. And once again, Kirsten, thank you for helping me keep track of time. Just a reminder, every member has 3 minutes total for comments. And now the floor is open. Sue, please come in.
Hi. I just want to comment in regards to some recent non-events, you might say. Not having crafters listed at all in the Peach Pit, not even the logo artists, was very saddening. I also noticed in the Peach Pit that there were maybe 2 photographs of craft items. I didn't really see any photographs of food. There was no mention of Energy Park. I find these to be serious lapses. Also, I've been noticing on in our online promotional videos, there's very little reference to craft or food or archaeology, the village, Energy Park, any of those other aspects of fair that are not purely entertainment. And I have no problem with entertainment. I want to be clear about that. I'm just getting concerned about how that becomes more and more the focus. Even on the OregonCountryFair.org page, you see a section called A Glimpse of the Fair, and there's close to 40 photographs there. There might be one of a booth, but I'm not sure from the photograph. But other than that, there's no craft, there's no food, there's no Energy Park, et cetera, et cetera. I think we are doing a disservice to all those areas of the fair that are not being promoted, as well as a disservice to our public, because they should know about these other things that we have to offer, these other educational, spiritual, uplifting sections of the fair. And remember, in the realm of crafters and not only craft and food, but we represent a fairly large portion of our revenue stream. So I would truly appreciate it if this could all be improved the next couple of years. So the public knows the entirety of what we have to offer, and well promoted, get their sunshine. Thank you.
Appreciate you, Sue, I hear you. Nancy, please come in. Nancy.
Hello. Yeah, sorry about that. I'm trying to unmute. Whoops. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Can you? Okay. Okay.
Oh, now we lost you, I think. I can't hear you, Nancy. How about I come back to you in just a moment, maybe give you a moment to try to troubleshoot your audio. Let's try Mike, please come in.
My name's Mike. I'm with the media crew team, and I have a unique perspective on the media goings on at the fair, and particularly the booths with KLCC and KRVM. And I want to suggest that the fair do media broadcasting differently next year. KLCC has abandoned the Eugene community in very extreme ways. They have become NPR. They have left the Lane County community. They are no longer announcing arts events on their media. They are no longer announcing concerts. They no longer have in-studio performances. They just don't care. And when they were on the fair property, their booth was nearly abandoned. There were people that were just kind of piecing it together. I know they have a lot of clout in terms of advertising the fair, but at some point, I think the fair has to stay consistent to its community values, and community radio stations are better equipped to broadcast in a fair and equitable way. And KLCC is just not attuned to the community. And their one fundraising event that they run, the only event they run at all throughout the year is an alcohol event. It's a beer fest. And they are polluting our airwaves 2 or 3 months out of the year with heavy promotions of their beer fest at the expense of all other community arts announcements. KLCC has abandoned ship on Lane County, and I think it's egregious to award them that perch in that hot tub, literally and figuratively, the perch at the fair, that they that is a severe amount of bullying and abandonment of the Oregon community. And I would like to see KOCF on that perch because they earned it.
Appreciate you, Mike. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, let's try Nancy once more. Let's see if you have your audio figured out. I'm hoping. Let's try it out.
Okay, yeah, me off. So yes, agreeing with Sue, certainly really disappointing that crafters were not listed. And, you know, I've been a crafter for 40 years, and it's long been felt by crafters that we're just second-class citizens, that you just don't, that the fair doesn't appreciate us. And it's really disappointing. I was surprised on Tuesday night or Wednesday, I was at the fair, and that's when I got a notice to like fill out what I wanted the Peach Pit to say. I thought, what? You know, I mean, it's 2 days from the fair, and of course it never came out. Just I really missed having the water truck. I liked having the guys come with the hoses, but there's just no way to get the path saturated enough. And so it would be really wonderful to have the water trucks coming back in the morning. And another thing that I was really disappointed to hear direct from a source was that their ID didn't get checked when they were picking up their wristband. they pulled it out and the person said something along the lines of, oh, if you say it's you and, that's good enough for me. And I don't think that's a very good idea, as well as that some people were allowed to do booth rep business that were not booth reps. Those kind of things I think need to be addressed and dealt with the way they always have, which is pretty strictly followed rules, so that there's not going to be a big problem with people getting in and we don't know who it is. And, anyway, I have other things, but I don't really recall what they are right now, but I'm glad I at least got the nerve up to speak this time. Because I've been coming and listening to the meetings for a while and just haven't been able to get myself to talk. So thank you for listening, and that'll sign off for now. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It means a lot that you got the courage to speak up. Your voice matters and it means a lot to all of us. That's true. And I believe Remedios also has some words in regards to Sue's concerns, and I'm going to take that as a hand. So please come in.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm really concerned about the image that the fair is putting out for the public and within our community, because, to me, the fair represents a really important thing of social change. And it started as, benefit for an alternative school or a beginning school. I don't know. I wasn't there at the beginning, so I may get the story wrong. But all the bigger community concerns and community village and energy park and all of the different alternative things of life that we're promoting at the fair, that is part of what we need in order to make this world healthy. And it's like I thought we represented these greater changes and a new role model for the world of how to do it better. And the promotion for the fair, it was really lacking in any of that, as well as a lot of things. Yeah, I didn't like not being able to find a crafters list. I looked for it and I needed it to find something and it wasn't there for me. I'm going, what? Why? So definitely we have a lot of things to look at and adjust preparing for the next fair. And yeah, I would really appreciate it being more complete picture of all the important values that the fair represents and works towards. I've also been trying to connect the fair with the Deep Transformation Network people, and I gave them contacts to get a hold of the fair and the website, blah, blah. But if the website doesn't have anything on it that shows our values and what our deeper work is about, or any of our deeper things we're doing there, then we just look like another fluff music event. And that is very disappointing and discouraging to me. I've been coming to the fair since 77 or so, and I believe in a lot of important values through my Gentle Revolution work to change the world and make a healthier world that we can survive in, which nature will thrive in. Anyway, good luck with Country Fair. Let's keep making it better.
Thank you very much, Remedios. Lovely to hear your voice. A gentle reminder for those of us who are directors, officers, and staff to leave our cameras on, and for the rest of us to leave our cameras off. Just for quick reference, but also it may help with streaming for those of you who are trying to come in with some poor internet signal. And now let's move to Paxton. Please come in.
I just wanted to remind people that the feedback form is available on the .net website. The 2023 Fair feedback form is a good place to put things if you've observed things, if you have observations that you think need corrected. The feedback form goes to gets compiled and then goes to all the different crews that it kind of affects. So it actually is a way of getting information into the fair's hands that is actually, I find, quite effective. So I really encourage people who have ideas, who have concerns, to use the 2023 Fair feedback form. Thank you.
Thank you, Paxton. AJ, please come in.
Yeah, I just wanted to take a second to often, sometimes in meetings like this, I get bogged down by everybody's trying to fix a problem. And it can seem negative and heavy sometimes. And so I wanted to take just 1 second to just put it out there that I am thankful for everybody that participates in this organization. I do believe that people are trying their best. We may not get it right every time, and I know we don't. But as you go forward and think about the areas in which we can improve as an organization, as individuals, I encourage and I want to lead with, let's maintain some empathy for folks who are trying their best. And as we are critical of certain things, that we are reminded, putting ourselves in folks' position, that we're kind, and that we just always remember that everybody is trying their best in every arena, and I truly believe that. Thank you.
Thank you, AJ. Appreciate you. I see your message on the chat, Stephen, and I just want to check with Remedios that you got your voice in as you wanted before.
Oh, I just realized I wasn't unmuted. I meant to be muted because I was done speaking. And I just gave a thumbs up to Paxton for that info. I'm going to follow up with that feedback form, I think. And thank you for a wonderful meeting and much love to you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Remedios. Okay, so Stephen, I believe that confirms that Remedios had her voice in as she wanted. All right, do we have any more comments that like to come in? All right, beautiful. Let's keep chugging along. Now we're going to move on to our staff report. Kirsten, please come in.
Thank you, Mauricio. And thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. And thank you for a wonderful 2023 fair. First, I would like to give a heartfelt thank you to all the volunteers, artists, crafters, restaurateurs, and entertainers for making the 2023 fair a success. Your gift of time and energy make each year magical. I hope all of you were rejuvenated by the community that we create. I want to thank the employees for their tireless efforts in supporting the annual work of the fair. Their commitment to the fair and to supporting the volunteers' efforts has helped make everyone's job easier, and we couldn't do it without them. Every event is different. The challenges we faced last year weren't the challenges we faced this year. What makes us successful every year is our ability to overcome the challenges. Through our co-creative efforts, we have survived the pandemic. I look forward to continuing our journey of transforming culture in magical, joyous, and healthy ways for many, many more years. On the administration front, Sierra McComas, our site and facilities manager, has resigned her position. Her last day was July 9th. She's decided to pursue work that is more in line with her professional goals. I want to thank her for her contribution to the organization, and we wish her the best in her future endeavors. I have posted the position on July 11th, and it closed today, August 7th at 5 p.m. A hiring council will be created to review resumes and conduct interviews. I have created a new position called the site supervisor, and I've promoted Corey Stidham to this position. He will work closely with the new site and facilities manager to prioritize and accomplish the many tasks associated with managing 500 acres and multiple facilities. So congratulations to Corey. He's going to be in our leadership team. Stephen Dyerkoff, our membership and recording secretary, noted some dates that I'm going to reiterate for the record. The board of director election is October 21st, 2023. August 20th at 8 p.m. Candidate statements are due. Please email them to elections@OregonCountryFair.org. In my report, I noted that September 14th was the last day to register to vote. Stephen Dyerkoff stated that September 21st is the last day to register to vote in this election cycle. The annual meeting will be held October 14th at 6:30 p.m. and the location is to be determined. We will be sure to inform you as soon as we have that location. Ballots are due at the Eugene office by 8 p.m. on October 21st, 2023. A candidate forum will be scheduled and the date and time is to be determined, and we'll be sure to let you know once that is scheduled. And the deadline to submit any advisory petitions passed, it was July 31st. For marketing, the media coverage of our event was covered very well. Social media coverage was excellent and advertising was effective. Ticket sales were robust and commemorative sales were the second highest ever recorded. The Peach Pit Artisan Directory didn't happen, and we are working to make sure that doesn't happen again. I've included a brief description or explanation of what is needed to align the process for equitable inclusion for all artists. What we found this year is that several things kind of didn't happen in a timely manner. And in the past, only artisans that were booth reps were included. And so we need to be more robust in making sure that we represent all of the artists that are present at our event, which means we need to realign some of our deadlines. And the absence of the craft and food in the Peach Pit has been a problem for years. And we are working this year in earnest to make sure that we represent the diversity of our food and our craft and our artists. So please stay tuned for some revised dates. I'm not going to read the entire explanation that I am giving, but it will be in the minutes and for your reading pleasure once they are submitted to the board. Financials, the 2023 event revenue was strong and some revenue streams, as I said, were the second highest on record. June and July 2023 financials will be presented at the September 11th board meeting. This is due to the high volume of transactions that need to be reconciled, so we need extra time to accomplish this. We have begun the SVOG grant audit and we are almost complete. The 2022 financial statements are done and are in the board packet today. The 990 and CT12 tax filings are being prepared. Ticket sales came in strong, as I mentioned, and here are the official numbers. On Friday, we sold 12,500 tickets. On Saturday, we sold 15,400 tickets. And on Sunday, we sold 11,500 tickets. Expenses are still coming in, and we don't know the full financial picture until after September 30th, which is the last date coordinators can submit reimbursement for expenses associated with the 2023 fair. So it'll probably be more like November or December before we actually have a full of the revenue and expenses and the profitability of the event. Event management, the 2023 fair highlights. There are so many that I could mention, but I picked a few. So if I missed some and it was associated with your area, I apologize. But again, I could go on for an hour talking about the highlights of this year's event. First, the weather was perfect. It was mid-80s all 3 days. Second, there were no major incidences. This is a good thing. Third, we live streamed the main stage for the first time and it was amazing. Efforts to monetize this in the future are underway. Thank you to Whitebird for caring for our community. They served a little over 4,000 people. Thank you to the many service providers that helped make the fair a success. I'll name a few. There are so many that I cannot name them all. So if I miss you, please forgive. Honey Buckets, Ritz Sauna, Whitebird, Verizon, T-Mobile, Sunbelt Rentals, United Rentals, Life's Best Intents, Dodeca Art Barn, LTD, First Student, Western States Flagging, Bearcom, City of Veneta, Sherman Brothers Trucking, Cascade Ice, Paragon Water, Lane County Sheriff's Office, and Lane Fire Authority. As I said, there are many more to thank, but I'll stop there. No problems with our many permits, including the outdoor assembly permit that we needed for the first time. 2023 fair lowlights. Unfortunately, AT&T did not bring a cellular tower this year. Great effort was put into convincing them to bring one by Floyd Prozanski and the Office of Emergency Management, to no avail. I want to thank them for working on this to the very last minute. Cellular service and internet was a major challenge again. We continue to assess the needs and improve the system annually. There were many rented vehicles damaged. Next year's event dates are July 12th, 13th, and 14th, 2024. The Teddy Bear Picnic is Saturday, August 19th at 2 p.m. Barbecue chicken and vegan burgers and hot dogs will be served. Please bring your own utensils and side dishes. This is not a potluck, and we will serve some side dishes. The Sugar Breets will be performing. There is no camping on Friday or Sunday night. Please, please, please pack it in, pack it out. Site: the winery house burned down on July 24th, 2023. A spark near the driveway caught the grass on fire and it spread to the house. No site employees were at the winery at the time of the fire. The neighbor reported it and Derwin was first on the scene. Thankfully, no one was injured and no other structures were damaged. I have contacted our insurance company. An adjuster will be on site this Wednesday to assess the damage. The house is insured and our deductible is $500. It is insured to $150,000. I will report back on what the insurance company offers. Permits for restoring the power pole and removal of the debris are underway. Bright Spot Culture Jam is happening as we speak. It is August 4th through August 11th. There are 44 youth participating, 26 staff volunteers, and it's great to have Culture Jam back and fulfilling our mission. Additionally, a real estate opportunity. This is not in my written report, but I'm adding it on. There's a real estate opportunity that I am interested in, will bring forth to the board in an executive session in the near future. And I thank you all again for a wonderful fair and for your time this evening. Thank you. You're muted, Mauricio.
Oh, wow. Wow. You'd imagine after 4 years of this thing that I've figured this out yet. All right. I was just saying thank you, Kirsten. That's an amazing report. And I see John's hand up. Please come in.
Yeah, Kirsten, I'm interested in more details about monetizing main stage. I think there are some policy implications there. Traditionally, the fair has broadcasts from stages for free for people. It seems like this would be a slight change from what we've been doing in the past. And I hope you have an opportunity to talk with the board about the policy implications of that, especially also in terms of whether the entertainers whose performances are being live streamed will share in that monetization or not. That's also a question that I would have, a policy question. So I hope we can have that discussion at some point. Also, you know, I saw a report recently that the North Atlantic Gulf Stream, the whole system of ocean currents will collapse probably sometime as early as 2025, maybe a little bit later. 2025, of course, is the date that we set to be carbon neutral. So I immediately thought about that and the implications of not reaching that goal. And I'm wondering if in a future report, you could bring us up to date on where we are in meeting that carbon neutrality goal by 2025 in general. And in particular, I'd like to hear what's, since the compost facility was part of a specific action to help meet that goal, where we're going to be with that. So if you could address that in a future report, I personally would appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Do we have any other comments, or can we move on to the treasurer's report? Don't see any more hands. So whenever you're ready.
Hi, I'll start. Just a quick reminder to reiterate what Kirsten said. Norma is working very hard to pay all the bills, but she needs to have the submissions done for the reimbursements to be able to do that. So please, please, please get those to her as soon as possible. So, and as Kirsten said, September 30th is the deadline. Also, a huge thanks to all the volunteers and to the coordinators for staying within their budgets. So big thanks for that.
Beautiful. Thank you, Linda. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Excellent. Now, oh, go ahead.
And
I had a voice coming in.
I'll do part 2 of Treasurer's report. Yeah, and I want to join Linda's voice with saying thank you, and particularly some of the people who are in the cash collection and cash dispersal cycles. We have a lot of people from coordinators collecting SO money to people who are handling the admissions money and the past sales money and registration money. We have a lot of people who are involved, and just want to say a really big thanks to all of them for doing a great job. And the commemorative sales people this year just really knocked it out of the park. It's a combination of having, design and product choice and hours open and handling the merchandise. So it's a big deal, and it's proven that it's not a slam dunk, but this year they did a really great job, and I want to make sure that they hear how much we appreciate that. And Kirsten mentioned that we had the 2022 financial statement review completed, and it's in the board packet. This is the review that an outside accountant does, that they compare it to other years, they do analytics on it, they do all the disclosures that are required for generally accepted accounting principles. It is presented in the format of generally accepted accounting principles, which means it's not our format that we use for our budget. So we can actually see allocated costs and how much, by the allocation, the estimate, like of how much the different programs cost on the statement of functional expenses. And I hope the board will look at that. And I hope we also put it up on the .net site so people can get an idea of, just how that distribution of expenses and effort into the different programs go. I think that's probably the most interesting report and most revealing compared to other information that we have. The balance sheet, which is our assets and liabilities and equity, looks kind of similar to what we usually get, but the statement of functional expenses is a unique report that only nonprofits do, and I think it's very revealing and helpful to understand. And I want to give a big shout out to Kirsten on the effort that she put into getting this report done in a timely manner. Here we are in August, and we were working on it right before the fair, and it's been years and years and years since we got all of our material to the accountants before the fair, and this year we were able to do that. And Kirsten, during main camp, was still working with the accountants and answering questions and sending them information. And I just really appreciate her ability to multitask and to be timely and to have a masterful grasp of our financials, that it means a whole lot to me and to this organization to know that we have, such a good financial manager running it. And I want to say big thanks there. And that's it.
Thank you, Hillary, and thank you, Kirsten. Amazing work all of you are doing. Okay, shall we move on to committees and work group reports? Yeah, great. So as a reminder, these are written reports that you can imagine. Everybody already knows this, but because I'm a newbie, I'm going to say anyways, to send them or email them to vanessa@oregoncountryfair.org for the .net site and the board packet, with one important exception. Starting this month, we're going to be having the Emerald Ash Borer Work Group report. And I welcome you into, oh, I'm so sorry. John, please come in.
Glenn and Kevin are not able to attend tonight. So they asked the board liaisons to give a brief report. And if it's okay with Paxton, I'll just read what they emailed us. Number one, that on September 25th, there will be a board work session focused on the Oregon Country Fair's planning and response to the Emerald Ash Borer in the Willamette Valley. The meeting will be held via Zoom and is open to everyone. There will be no board decisions at this meeting, Monday, September 25th, from 7 to 9 p.m. The second that they wanted to make sure we said is that there are many sources of information about the Emerald Ash Borer that can be found on the LUMP site. And I'm putting the link in the chat box, and I'll put the link in the Zoom, the other one, the YouTube chat box. And there's also a link on the LUMP page where you can hear about meetings and volunteer opportunities. So hopefully they'll be able to give some more details next month, but that's what they wanted me to convey.
Well, I appreciate you for putting it in, John, that proxy report. I appreciate you. Beautiful. Any comments before we move on to old business? Excellent. All right, so old business, first position as per our amended agenda would be to elect A.J. Jackson as president of the fair. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Beautiful.
I'd like to make a motion.
All right, do we have a second?
Well, I can make the motion. Let me, do you mind, Mauricio, if I read the motion?
Please do, yeah.
Well, thank you. The board moves to elect Anthony A.J. Jackson as president of the fair, Tom Horn, Sue Theolis, Sandra Bauer, Paxton Hogue, Lisa Parker, Kevin Levy, John Silvermoon, John Alexander, George Braddock, Arna Shaw, and Ann Bennett Rogers. Whereas on November 2nd, 2022, the board of directors elected Tom Horn as president and Sandra Bauer, Anthony A.J. Jackson, and Lisa Parker as vice presidents. The board year, November 2022 to November 2023, was divided into trimesters, and the president assigned each vice president a trimester in the event that the office of the president was vacated. Sandra Bauer was assigned the first trimester, November 2022 through February 2023. Lisa Parker was assigned the second trimester, March 2023 through June 2023, and Anthony A.J. Jackson was assigned the third trimester, July 2023 through October 2023. And whereas in accordance with Article 9, Section 6 of the Oregon Country Fair bylaws, in the event of the death of the president, still here, but the vice president will become president for the remainder of the term. And whereas Tom Horn has resigned as president and is still very much alive, thank you, in accordance with Article 9, Section 2 of the Oregon Country Fair bylaws, the board of directors must elect a new president to serve until the next annual board meeting. And whereas the vacancy of the president's office occurred during Anthony A.J. Jackson's trimester, I, Tom Horn, move that the board elect Anthony A.J. Jackson as the president of the fair for the remainder of the board term, ending at the next annual board meeting to be held on November 6, 2023.
I second.
Thank you, Lisa. Do we have unanimous consent? Can I see all thumbs up? All right. Moving through. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your willingness to make this an expeditious process. And now, woohoo! Now we move on to the next item from old business, which is personal policies. Oh, yes, please go ahead.
I would just like to say something really briefly.
Of course, please, AJ. Congratulations.
All right. Well, thank you. To my colleagues, this is an honor and a privilege to lead for the short amount of time that I have left here, and to get your vote on this. We have seen each other, a lot of us, through some pretty tough times over the last couple years. I just want to just express my appreciation for you and recognize what an honor and a privilege this is for me. And I will do my best to live up to what Tom has set forth and others who came before him did. So thank you, and I appreciate you, and let's keep it going in a positive way. Thank you.
Thank you very much, AJ. Beautiful. Any other words? I know that I tried to like keep more things forward, but of course your voice is very important to all of us. So please let me know if you'd like to chime in at any point during. Lovely. So if it's okay with everyone, let's go ahead and move to that second item onto old business, personnel policies and committee appointment. Sandra.
AJ, you want to make the motion? Do you want me to? Okay,
You go.
I'll go.
You go.
Okay. The board, so I'm making the motion then for AJ and me. The board moves to add Sandra Bauer to the Personnel Policies Committee.
I second that.
Excellent. Do we have unanimous consent?
I think we have to have discussion first.
Oh,
We
I'm
have
so sorry,
discussion.
AJ. Yes,
Right.
beautiful.
And
Also,
we have members,
your voice, yeah, your sound was coming a little bit. So
Oh.
yeah, discussion. Please go ahead.
and we have membership discussion first.
Gotcha. Dana to the note. Membership discussion on this Sandra addition. The floor is open. All right. And I thank you for your patience on me trying to figure this out as we move through this. I'm hoping that this gets smoothed out as we move into further meetings. Oh, I'm sorry. Farka, Tom, and Aaron, please come in.
Hi, this is Erin. I highly recommend Sandra for this position. She's been working with this committee since it was changed from the Personnel Committee to the Personnel Policies Committee by the the report that was done 5 years ago. Now I can't remember right off the top of the head the name of it. So anyway, I highly recommend her. She's been doing the work without being on the committee. So I think that this is a good move. So I support her.
Thank you very much, Aaron. Any other voices? All right, so do we move into the voting at this moment, Tom? Is that correct? Or Stephen? Is that right?
Board discussion.
Yeah, board discussion.
Board discussion. Okay, check.
I see Paxton's hand just in the actual in his.
Oh, I see. Yes, please, Paxton, come in. Thank you, Tom.
I really respect Sandra and her long years and years of work with the fair, but I cannot support this motion. I have observed the way she does not follow committee best practices at meetings, and I have found that difficult at times. And so I cannot support this motion. Thank you.
Noted, Paxton. Arna, please come in.
Oops. I highly recommend Sandra for this position. She has worked as a liaison to this committee for 4 years, and she's the chair of the committee. They elected her chair. She helped revise our personnel policy manual, which hadn't been redone in, I don't know, 10 years or something. She spearheaded that. I'm sorry, guys, I'm a little brain dead today. My dog had surgery and I've been kind of like a little frazzled. So you'll have to bear with me. She spearheaded that whole project. She's been an important person on that committee. I have worked with Sandra on committees. I find her to be a very collaborative worker. She'll state her opinion and, will work with the committee. on and work with the committee, and is a great member of committee. I've never found her not following best practices. As a founding member of the Committee on Best Practices, I find that she has developed a lot of that work and that manual. And I've never found her not following those practices. And I really highly recommend her for this committee.
Thank you, Arna. Nothing but grace to you, and I'm sorry to hear about your pets. Certainly coming from someone also working with limited brain capacity. Thank you again. All right, Sue, please come in.
Just a quick question. Was there a recent call out for new members?
Is there anybody suited to respond to this question?
I think the last call out we did was asking for an HR professional to join the team. And we just recently had some resignation, so there'll be a new call out going out.
Thank you, Sandra. Evan, please come in.
Thank you, Mauricio. I want to say I've worked closely with Sandra on Fixed Assets Committee. As well, I've sat in on a meeting with the Personnel Committee, and I've always found her to be professional and empowering, and she really has helped me with my journey. I know that, she's helped me get out of my comfort zone, as well as I've seen her many times work collaboratively with folks. I think that she is totally perfect for the position, especially if she's already chair. I think she's already got folks behind her that believe in her. And I know that I think she's totally okay for this. And so I want to show my full support. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Kevin. Lisa, please come in.
Yeah, so in my 5 years on the board, I've made a lot of committee appointments, and I follow a standard process for each and every one. The committee nomination for the committee appointment comes from the committee itself, and there is agreement on the committee that the appointment is appropriate. And in this case, the appointment, this motion didn't come from the committee, and there is also disagreement on the committee about this appointment. So just based on the process that I have followed for 5 years now, I'm going to have to vote no.
Thank you, Lisa. AJ, please come in.
Yeah, I 100% support this motion. I want us to remember as an organization that we often do things differently. I don't believe it's fair to have a different standard for one committee that we don't have for other committees. I have watched in the last year other folks be appointed to committee without the same process as we're doing, or some of us are stating for our reason for not supporting this motion. Sandra has been a vice president. She is a founder of this organization. She is one of the hardest working board members that I've ever seen. And she has a lot of support on this committee and in this organization. I also want to just say that for every volunteer, anybody who's willing to volunteer their time and energy as much as this person has to an organization should be commended and welcomed into their fold, welcomed and thanked for their service to this organization. And I hope we share that and spread that throughout the organization. When people step up to volunteer for a hard job and volunteer their blood, sweat, and time and family and all of that stuff to volunteer for this organization, we should welcome them. Thanks.
Thank you, AJ. I know Johnny's next, but I want to confirm with you, Paxton, that you do you still want to have your hand up via icon? Okay, thank you, Paxton. Okay, John Alexander, please come in.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I want to just bring something up. I know I had talked to Arna and others about the best practices policies, and in no way do I want this comment to get in the way of this motion or result in any additions to this motion or anything else. But I do want to encourage that committee to bring back to the top of their agenda clear processes that are outlined for committee membership and associated nominations, because I know there's some other pending committee nominations that have been not brought forward for quite some time. And so I just want to throw that out there, since we're talking about committee nominations, that I remain confused about the process as a newer board member. And so it would be great to have guidelines and or policies around the process of bringing members on and get through some of these other backlogs of membership applications. Not tonight, just putting that out there. And thank you all for your comments, and that's where I'm at. And I definitely appreciate Sandra's leadership. I've learned a lot from Sandra since I've been here, as I have from all of you all that I continue to reach out to and talk with, which hopefully is everybody. All right, thanks. I'm toggling on and off because I'm having some connectivity issues. I know I'm supposed to keep my video on, but then I can't hear. So
Thank you, John, and I appreciate you letting us know. Okay, back to Arna. Please come in.
So my understanding is that this nomination for Sandra to be on the committee came from the committee. It might not have been a unanimous nomination. There was one person who does not want her on the committee, but the rest of the committee does want her. So I guess, Lisa, unless you're saying that committees have to be unanimous in their approval of someone, and that's your choice. You know, you have your own criteria. But I do want it known that the committee did nominate her to be on the committee. And I did forget to mention that, you know, Sandra has a lot of experience. She was a business owner for many years. She also has experience in personnel. So it's not like she's just coming in from left field to do this kind of work. She wrote a personnel policy for her business. And as I say, she's, helped rewrite the one for the fair. And, as AJ said, her dedication to the fair is, what can you say? She's one of the founders of the fair. She's been involved since then. She had a little less involvement when she lived in Washington, but since she's been back, she's just been here all the time being involved and helping the fair in very positive ways. And I just really can't see not approving her for this committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Arna. And then back to you, AJ.
Yeah, I just want to briefly just state also that the committees, when the board is seeking advice or something from committees, we want a diversity of opinions. What that means to me is not everybody on the committee is going to agree. We shouldn't have committees full of friends who all agree on one thing. We should have committees that give us really good information. And how we do that is we have a diversity of opinion on those committees. And so whether a committee is all in favor of someone or not, I think as a board member, we should be in the business of getting a diversity of opinion from our committees and making sure that our committees are functioning at our regard.
Thank you, AJ. Any more input before we move the motion to a vote? All right. So if I'm correct, now we move into the voting process. Is that correct? I'm getting this too. Okay, here we go. And I'll move name by name. John Alexander.
Wow, I'm in the pole position on all of these votes. I'm in favor.
Thank you. I know that you're being nominated, Sandra, but you still get a vote. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sandra, please.
Well, of course, I say yes.
George.
Yes.
Paxton.
No.
Tom.
Yes.
AJ.
Yes.
Kevin.
Yes.
Lisa.
No.
Anne.
No.
Arna.
Yes.
Sue.
No.
John Silverman.
No.
And where does that put us in terms? I can't
Yeah, my
remember
God,
what it's the
George.
weight. That is a no pass. Okay. And then I find myself in a bit of a dead end. So does that mean that we move on to the next item, or is there an additional process? We just move on to the next item. Thank you. I appreciate you all. Okay, next item. Committee Best Practices Workgroup Manual Revision Recommendations. To be presented by Arna and Sandra. Whenever you're ready.
Okay, so these recommendations came from the committee, not from either Sandra or me. They are from the committee. There's 3 different recommendations, so I'm going to take them as separate. We'll start with the first one, which is the board liaison role. So for those of you who are just who are watching the meeting, all of these are posted on the .NET page. You know, under the meeting, if you go to the board of directors and then go to today's meeting, there the board motions are posted. The first one's very short here, but the other 2 are pretty long. So I thought I'd give you a way to follow along with them. The first one is the board liaison role. So the board moves to pass the following recommendation for the best practices manual. Committee facilitators and board liaisons are responsible for ensuring that all present at committee meetings adhere to the code of conduct and will set and ensure that each member of the committee and other individuals, whether present or absent, will receive respectful and equitable treatment.
Now I have another question. Each of these items, will they be voted separately? Is that correct?
Yes.
And
Okay.
I will second that motion, Mauricio.
Thank you, Sandra.
And Vanessa, thank you for putting the link in the chat.
Thank you, Vanessa. Okay, so if I understand correctly, we move on to member input, then board input, and then the vote, correct? Do we have any member input? Okay, what about board input? All right, so do we perhaps have unanimous consent on this item? No? Okay, so I'm gonna start moving on through the names. So let's go ahead. I'm gonna change the order a little bit. How about Tom?
Yes.
Sue?
Are we having discussion or are we having a vote?
Nobody signed.
Correct. I opened the space, but please come in. If you have a comment, I welcome it.
You're muted, John.
Lisa
No,
has her hand up, I see.
Yes. Also, you're muted. Go ahead, John, and then we'll move on to Lisa. Please come in. You're
Trying
still
to point
muted.
out that Lisa had her hand in the chat box, so I'm gonna,
Oh, thank you, John. Thank you, John. Lisa, please come in.
Sorry, I got it in there a little late because I was struggling with my windows and
problem.
everything. They just kind
No
of
problem
kept
at all.
popping out of the way. So I am looking at the charter for the committee best practices work group. And it says the work group meets as needed by directive from the board. The committee best practices work group is not a standing committee. They meet again at the direction of the board. I cannot find a board directive for the committee best practices work group to do this work. And so I'm a little confused about that. Was there a directive that I just can't find?
Is anybody suited to answer this question?
After we had the meeting for when we were discussing how to deal with the issues around the diversity committee, we were asked a lot, much of what we were talking about in there, we were asked to include in the committee best practices, so it would apply to all committees, not just to the diversity committee, which was good advice. So we took that on.
I don't recall that, and I don't see that reflected in any of the board meeting minutes. So, you know, I just think that for the work group that is called Committee Best Practices, that it is especially important to follow good process. And I'm not seeing that here. So I actually don't think that this should even be on the agenda for a board vote at this point. I think it's premature. And so I plan on voting no, not even on the merits of the motion, but just on the lack of process.
Thank you, Lisa. AJ, please come in.
The board did ask for the committee to reconvene during the debates around the diversity committee. So this was not out of the blue. The committee didn't just decide to come together again for no reason. So Lisa, the board did, if you go back to those times, the board did ask the committee to deal with this issue and to start meeting again for this issue, specifically on making the policies that we were making equitable across the board. So I would hate for a motion like this to go away based on some, I mean, we have two different recollections of that, but a committee that's done this amount of work for almost a year and a half now on behalf of the board, which the board asked them to reconvene, I think it would do a disservice to our organization. This is good policy.
Just a direct response. Can you show me the motion?
Don't do, Mauricio, we don't do directs like that. Someone can answer, raise their hand again, but we don't do the back and forth.
Gotcha. And I apologize, Lisa. I'm also trying to learn how this works. So if it's okay with you, we're gonna move on to Arna, and then we can return to you. If that's okay. Okay, Arna, please go.
What I said, she can raise her hand again, Mauricio. She can raise her hand again and make a different. It just can't be a back and forth.
Gotcha. She did put her hand, and she's called it a react response, but it came after Arna. So if it works with you, AJ, then maybe we can go to Arna and then still hold her place in the queue. Would that be okay with you? Perfect. Arna, please come in.
I guess I'm really disappointed. These motions have been on the agenda since June. Lisa, if you had concerned about process, could you not have gotten in touch with us earlier so that I could have had time to go back through motions, through the board minutes and look for this? You know, I mean, really, there have been months. This was originally on the agenda for the June meeting. So it's been there for a long time. And I feel a little flabbergasted. You're bringing this up here at the meeting we were going to vote on it. I just really wish you had, said something to me earlier about this, that you didn't think the process was proper, because, then we would have looked at that and we could have dealt with that. Doing it now kind of skews it all. I do believe that the committee was asked to look at this, but I have to say I've only been on the committee since November. And I believe they were asked to look at this before I was on the committee. So I think Sandra has a better sense of that because she's been on the committee the whole way through. But I'm just really disappointed. This is coming out now. Instead of it coming out earlier when we could have dealt with it. If this is going to be your issue, I think I'd rather maybe table all of this so that we could clear up this issue of process. Instead of bringing it up and having you vote no on this when it may not even be the issue.
Thank you,
Can I
Arna. And-
speak now?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Let me confirm that, Arna, that you have spoken what you wanted to say.
Yeah, I think I'm done.
Thank you, Arna. And then you have your hand up and your hand down, but I think that because
Now
this is
it's
a
back
direct
up.
question, please
Yes.
go ahead. Yep, go ahead,
Yes.
Lisa.
Actually, I did check in with Sandra about it, Arna, a while ago about the process because I was curious about that. And I actually did go through board meeting minutes and committee best practices work group meeting minutes. It's a work group, not a committee. And I never saw any directive from the board for the committee to reconvene and do this work. And I did see discussion in the committee best practices work group minutes where there was not unanimous agreement on whether the committee best practices work group should undertake this work. So I am I'm feeling like this is premature. I'd like to see this brought before the board, perhaps in a different manner.
Thank you, Lisa. I see that we have Spirit with first a point of order and then a point of clarity. And then I will go to you, Paxton, if that works out. Spirit. Are you there?
Can you hear
Please.
me?
Yep, now I can hear you. Yeah, just go ahead.
I believe it was the special board meeting that was held February 2022 that we referred to committee best practices, and my bandwidth won't let me bring it up totally. But this was an ongoing discussion, and I remember it very clearly. I believe it would be in those minutes. Unfortunately, I can't bring it up, but almost absolutely we discussed this.
Could you repeat the date, Spirit?
February, the special board meeting in February, and I'm not sure that date, but would have been mid-February, probably the 21st-ish.
Okay. Thank you, Spirit. Appreciate you. Paxton, please come in.
I remember this in reality. It came out of a discussion in that meeting that committee best practices was going to look at more of this, but it was really because it was a reaction to the diversity committee meetings that had happened previously. A lot of this came up. I actually was involved in the work group that went through this, and repeatedly I told them at that time that I would probably vote against this as we, when it came down to board approval, because I didn't agree with the discussion and the process and the way they were developing this. Now, this very first one, board license roll, I actually don't mind this one at all. I think this is good. And because I think that just reiterates what we already know or what we're supposed to be doing. However, 2 and 3, I have big problems with, and will continue to, and will probably vote against those if it continues. Anyway, that's kind of my comment. I do view this as the committee reaching outside of their role. Thank you.
Thank you, Paxton. John Alexander, please come in.
Thanks. I've attended some of this committee's or this work group, meetings. And I think that the information that they are putting out is helpful to, despite whatever caused this committee to be reformed or this work group to be reformed, to be providing guidelines that hopefully can be consistently applied across committees. And so I've found their work helpful for myself, and the manual helpful for myself as a new board member trying to learn this process and jumping into liaison roles. And what I want to do as we continue to look towards the end of this season, or whatever we call it, with regards to looking forward to the retreat, I think that let's just put a conversation on the retreat about all committees, what their charges are, what the board is directing each of these committees to do, and reconfirm so we're all on the same page about each of our committees and their processes with regards to the larger processes. So there continues to be, I continue to be confused about board committees, other kind of committees, and what their charges are. And I specifically think that these committees that serve at the request of the boards, we need to be very clear and on the same page as a board about what these committees are set up to do. As Tom would say, the scope and sequence of what they're working on, and whatnot. So I just want to, as we continue to stumble over these kind of things, look forward to how we can get together as a board and really come to a common understanding, not only of this committee, but of each committee and what our expectations are of them. So, yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And I've been just reminded that we're currently in the director's input section of this. So apologize to you, Jonathan. We're going to move now on to AJ. Please come in.
Yeah, I just want to express that the committee is it brought this, or not the committee, the work group brought this to the board. And then also kind of back to what Arna said, our work group meetings have been open. Our work group meetings, board members, several of the board members in here have participated in that. So to, on one hand, say that we are not, supposed to be functioning, and on the other hand, say we participated in the not supposed to be functioning thing, it doesn't make sense. I think what I hope that we do not let we don't let small things get in the way of good policy. This is a good policy. Whether maybe they did number one. Let's start with that. Can we all agree that number one is something that would be a good policy, and we should take a vote on that, and we can go back and revisit, whether a work group that's been meeting for several months, if not a year or more, did it with the board's blessing, but it doesn't meet without the board's blessing. This work group has received Zoom meetings from the organization. It is not like this work was done in hiding, and that work group is bringing this to us. So let's try to have good policy that we vote on here, and try to acknowledge that, and that we're in need of good policy at this time in our organization, and we should honor that.
Thank you, AJ. Ooh, okay. I'm going to step out of my facilitator hat for just a second. I'm having a hard time just tracking most of this. So we're gonna keep moving. We're gonna go with Kevin, and then maybe at some point, if it's okay with you all, maybe I'll get some clarifications, because for some weird reason I feel like there's some agreement, and now we're just starting to move into this semantics discussion. So maybe I'll ask about that later. Kevin, please come in.
Thanks for that, Mauricio. I agree. I was just going to agree with John Alexander that, you know, as a new board member, you know, participating and mostly observing and just trying to kind of wrap my head around things, I keep seeing this happening where all these folks put all this time and effort into creating these amazing policies that we can discuss and that we can form and mold to make sure that they make sense, only to just have them just completely, you know, ignored for what they've done and just saying, oh, too bad, go back to the drawing table. And I'm just not sure how that's the best time, the best use of time for everyone. And so I'm just trying to, as well as John, get on the same page and understand exactly what we're trying to do here, besides just create each of our own individual policies, it seems. I guess I don't know if there's a way to get past that. And thank you for AJ too as well for really just trying to help me understand exactly what's happening. For I agree, this is a, you know, a committee that I thought everybody was on board with, and so it's weird when we get to this point and everybody's saying they're not on board with the committee. So again, as a new board member, it's definitely confusing and disappointing, and I look forward to clarification from this. I think I try and look at everything positively and say, you know, even during this, maybe this helps to prevent it from happening again, and we can get some traction. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Kevin. And I have been just reminded, since now we're kind of in the thick of this conversation, that those who aren't directors, we're going to use the chat feature on the Zoom aspect of this meeting just for hands, and any other discussions could take place in the YouTube chat, if so that it makes it easy for me to keep track where the hands are, and also track on the queue of the conversation. So thank you all for your understanding. Okay, we're going to move now to Sandra. Please come in.
Yeah, I wanted to say that, you know, the committee best practices was originally tasked with putting together a manual that would provide a template for best practices for committees. And we went through a long, strenuous, you know, year and a half long process the first time around, and came up with the manual. And it's turned out to be quite helpful. Then then since we've implemented the manual and we were coming into various different kind of situations, one of them having to been around our efforts to make things fair with the diversity committee. Part of how people wanted that to happen was to update the manual to include processes that would apply to all committees, not just the diversity committee. And so we took that, after we were asked to do that work, we took that upon ourselves and did the work. And we've been doing it for months. And, there's been a lot of people who've filtered in and out. And this is the result of a long deliberative process, trying to put together, we couldn't foresee all the ways in which this manual could be helpful in the beginning. And when we started being able to apply it to certain circumstances, and yet we didn't have enough specificity in it to apply to all the cases where it'd be really useful, we went back to the drawing board and tried to update the information that was in there and flesh it out a little bit more so it would be yet more useful to us. And so that's what we did. And I think that this is important work. A lot of people were involved in doing this over a long time. It was deliberative. Everyone got an opportunity to say their piece. And I really hope that you are able to look at this and vote on the merits. So we do need this. This is important to the organization to have this kind of updated process, and process is important. And that's what we were working on here, is process. And so anyway, I hope you do vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. And just a quick reminder, we are on item 1 of the manual revision recommendations, just for context, so that we're all tracking the same conversation. Okay. I see John Silverman, please come in.
Well, first off, I anticipated we'd have a lot of discussion around this, which is one reason why I was hoping to get some of this discussion to happen at a previous meeting, but it didn't happen. When committee best practices started, I thought the focus was to help committees be more efficient, to give them tools and ideas about how they can function well, and that the committees would be able to apply what they thought was relevant and not apply what they thought was not relevant to how they wanted to operate. And somehow the whole focus of committees' best practices, to me, seems to have shifted to not to one of assistance, but to one of control, to dictate specifically how each and every committee is supposed to function, to make them all function the same, to all have the same procedures. And I don't think that reflects the diversity of the makeup of the committees or the diversity of the charges of the committees. And I don't think it's a wise move to make them all function exactly the same way. I think there's some differences in the subject matter of the committees that lends itself to differences in the way the committee may do particular functions. That's why I oppose these changes tonight, because I think committee best practices has gone off the rails, and I don't think it's becoming less of a tool to help and more of a tool to control, and I'm just not in favor of that.
Thank you, John. Okay, Arna, please come in.
I'd like to call the question.
Okay, I'm gonna need some assistance in here.
I'll second it.
So now that we go to the vote.
Okay.
Straight up and down vote, no discussion.
Okay. Moving on to each of the names. Let's go. Tom.
Yes.
Sue.
Yes.
Sandra.
Yes.
Paxton.
Are we voting on number 1 or calling the question?
Number
Voting
1.
on the question. Calling
Pardon?
the question, not on the motion.
That's what I thought. I'll vote yes to calling the question.
Well, I don't think we vote on calling the question. We
Yes,
don't
you do.
vote.
Yes, you do.
We do.
You do only call the question. It's a straight up and down vote without discussion. If it passes, then you go to the main vote. If it doesn't pass, it's further discussion.
Yeah, I think if we go back to the history of what we just did this a while ago, we did not vote on calling the question, but we will. Stephen, you are a parliamentarian. I will trust your guidance, and we will do what you suggest.
It's the ethical thing to do, because if you can just call the question, get a second, that means 2 people can shut down any motion. So that's why we have to vote on calling the question and then vote on the motion.
Okay, do we Are we all in the same page? As I understand it, we vote in calling the question, then we do the motion. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so going back to Paxton,
Yes to calling the question.
Lisa,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
John Silvermoon,
Yes.
John Alexander,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Arna,
Yes.
Anne.
Yes.
Did I get everyone? You did?
Yes.
That AJ, yes, thank you. Okay. So now we vote on the actual motion for the first item. Is that correct? Thank you. Okay, Tom,
Yes.
Sue,
Yes.
Sandra,
Yes.
Paxton,
Yes.
AJ,
Yes.
Lisa,
Abstain.
Kevin,
Yes.
John Silvermoon,
Abstain.
John Alexander,
Yes.
George. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, George.
Yes.
Thank you. Arna,
Yes.
Anne.
Abstain.
Okay, so on our tally, it's a pass. All right, thank you all. Now we move into item 2, if I understand correctly. Is that right?
That's correct.
Thank you. And either Arna or Sandra would like to present? You're muted. It's still muted.
Arna, you're muted.
Got it.
There we go.
Okay, I'll do the second one. The second one is about closed committee meetings. The board moves that the purpose of board committees is to provide information and recommendations to the board. And in that role, closed meetings should be rare and only used when absolutely necessary. All committee, subcommittee, ad hoc, and work group meetings of OCF board-appointed committees are open to all fair members with certain exceptions, as described below. All criteria below apply to committees, subcommittees, ad hoc, and work groups. Any director may attend any closed meeting. Process and criteria for a closed meeting. The OCF Board of Directors may request by a motion that a committee address a topic requiring confidentiality. Any committee or subcommittee wishing to hold a closed meeting must request and receive prior approval from the board liaison or liaisons and board president, and provide notification of their intent to hold an approved closed meeting, including the reason, date, time, location, or link, and agenda to all members of the OCF Board of Directors, not less than 7 days prior to the planned date of the meeting. If a closed committee meeting is planned to occur in the context of a meeting at which topics that are not eligible to be discussed in closed committee sessions are also on the agenda items to be discussed in closed session must be clearly marked as closed and arranged within the agenda in a sequence that consolidates the closed topics in a contiguous section of the meeting prior to or after the primary agenda topics. Permitted reasons for requested and closed meetings. Legal, personnel, and real estate, when an approved board motion allows for a committee closed session. That's it.
Thank you, Arna. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Sandra. Now I open the floor to member input, please.
No, Sue has her hand up first.
Oh, yes, please. Oh, absolutely. Sue, thank you for keeping track. Come in.
Yeah, I wanted to get friendly amendments in before it opened up to membership. I would like to add one more topic to the permitted reasons And that would be for sensitive issues. In addition to that, I would like us to add a clause that emergency closed meetings or portions thereof are permissible, providing the entire board is notified of the emergency closed meeting as soon as the emergency arises.
Oh, it doesn't, oh, no.
So
I'll
I believe
second
that. Does that mean that that's amendment is that friendly amendment is okay? Great. Okay, so now we are going to move into membership input of the
Mauricio,
amendment.
you have to, a friendly amendment, you have to ask the maker of the motion and the second of the motion if they will accept the friendly amendment. Did we do that? I don't think so.
I'll ask again. So does the person who made the motion and second accept the friendly amendment?
Yes, I do.
And so do I.
Perfect. So now we can move on to membership input. Is that correct? Yes. Brilliant. Okay. I see Jonathan, please come in.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can.
Yes. We had lengthy discussion about this over several weeks, this concept. And by defining a reason to have a closed meeting as sensitive matters, you completely eliminate the purpose of this proposed criteria. Anything could be construed by somebody as sensitive matters anytime that it's advantageous to them. The point of this particular clause is that the fair have open governance. If anybody can declare a matter sensitive because it's politically convenient or personally convenient, that kind of kills that concept. And so I strongly recommend against accepting this amendment. Thanks.
Thank you, Jonathan. Stephen, please come in.
Hi. Do we need to? Hang on a second.
We're having a bit of an echo.
Can you hear me now?
Stephen.
Just
Yes, much
nod.
better. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have to say, as far as questioning the providence of the committee, I don't recall the committee having been shut down, ad hoc or not. It has to have an official conclusion, and to claim that it is not supposed to be doing this work just when we get to the board voting on this motion, I have to say, they've been reporting to the board every month on their progress and their work. So the idea that they don't have a standing to be doing this work seems ludicrous and at best and embarrassing at worst. And then on this particular motion, I have to agree entirely with John, and I'm surprised that the friendly amendment was accepted. There has to be, if you're going to have any other subjects than those that are objectively defined in this measure as being allowable for a closed meeting, which should be the exception and the antithesis of our purpose, then you have to have a clearly defined process by which there is an empowerment to decide what is sensitive. And all of the tensions that we have had around the idea of closed meetings would have not been fixed in any way whatsoever, because the committee can just say, well, we think it's sensitive. And that is the problem. That is not how it should be done. Now, if you want to say 3 board members, the president of the board may authorize, et cetera, to create some sort of exception, that would be fine. But to just say that committees have a free hand to declare something sensitive and then kick the rest of the fair membership out of a meeting is the antithesis of what we're supposed to be about, what we're supposed to be doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Spirit, please come in.
Sorry, it's hard to navigate this on my phone.
That's quite all right. Go ahead.
So if everyone would like to recall February 18th, 2022, this topic was already covered and sensitive issues was discussed specifically around the diversity committee, although if we'd like to extend it to the rest of them, but the motion is such that it is to be approved by the board president and liaisons. Should there be a reason for, let's see, I can read it right here. Diversity committee may also hold closed meetings in the instances when the diversity committee is asked to assist with a sensitive situation with the approval by majority of the president, vice president, and committee liaisons. So in that sense, I'm not sure if this motion is to cover all committees having the same policy behind it. If so, I am okay with it as long as it still consists of those people voting. And I just wanted to point that out. I feel like the board needs to maybe be doing some more homework behind these motions because the work is done. Committees are supposed to be by directive of the board following committee best practices, not some version of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Spirit. Steve Gorman, please come in.
Hi, I agree with what John Pincus said totally. We should not have committees that could be closed. So I agree with what John, you should vote this number 2 down. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Are there any other members who'd like to give some input? Okay, so now we move on to.
Firecat, Tom, and Aaron have their hand up.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, it just popped up. Okay, Firecat, please.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Erin again. The motion does include that you have to have a time frame and you have to get an okay from the liaison and the president. But I think that, and I could be wrong because I was involved with this work. I believe that the friendly amendment maybe could be adjusted a little bit, and Sue and Arna and Sandra, maybe you could correct me because I was in these meetings. I'm thinking that the intention of this was specifically so the crafts committee could do their work because they sometimes deal with sensitive issues in their meetings. And I'm not positive if maybe this was meant to be for the crafts committee because the crafts committee doesn't have, like Spirit mentioned about the diversity committee, when there's a board motion that allows a committee to act in a different manner, that is a reason for a closed session as long as it meets that board motion. But I'm thinking this conversation came up around the crafts committee, and maybe you guys could clarify that because that's what I think it was.
Thank you, Aaron. It's 8:53 at the moment, and I've been reminded that clearly we're not going to be done by 9, and we do need to make a motion to extend the meeting. And this may be an interesting pause so that we may finish this conversation and move into the board input. Is anybody willing to make that motion?
Yes, I move that we extend the meeting for an extra 20 minutes, which makes our ending at 9:20.
I second.
Thank you, AJ.
Second.
Thank you. Do we have a unanimous consent?
No.
Okay. I'll call in each by name. Tom?
Yes.
AJ?
Yes.
Sue?
It was a yes.
Sorry, I have been sick for 3 days. Couldn't see the mute. AJ said the meeting would end at 9:20 and my clock shows that it should be 9:15. And if it's 9:15, I will say yes.
Is this then an amendment to that motion? Sue? Okay.
20 minutes.
Can I clarify, Sue? We have 5 more minutes left for the meeting original end. It's gonna take us a few minutes to get through this. If we can go to
Okay,
9:20.
got it. Got it.
Thank-
I'm okay.
Thank you.
So is that a yes on that motion, Sue? Thank you. Okay, Sandra,
Yes.
Paxton,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Silvermoon. Oh, thank you both. I apologize
Yes,
for that.
yes.
George, George,
Yes.
Arna,
Yes.
and Anne.
Yes.
All right, appreciate you all. Okay, so we
And
may proceed with.
Mauricio,
Yes, please,
one
go ahead.
quick thing. I am gonna request that we close the stack after the folks that are on there, so we can move on and to rest our agenda and vote. Is that okay with everybody? We've had plenty of discussion. That we close the stack after the hands that are in the chat right now. Chance. No?
I see a number of no's.
Okay, so I removed that. Let's continue on.
Okay, so let's see. We just finished with Aaron. Jonathan.
Yeah, I like to remind everybody that this proposed criteria is applicable to all committees. We already have one motion that calls out some different protocol passed by the board for a particular committee. And if something like the craft committee needs particular consideration, that's what the focus of an amendment should be, not an amendment that applies, that enables all committees to decide that something that might be of interest to the entire Fair family is sensitive because of the particular person on that committee. Thanks.
Thank you, Jonathan. John Alexander.
I want to make, okay, so I want to make sure we're on to board comments and we're not done with the member.
Not quite yet. I believe we just stayed with membership at the moment. You could speak as a member, if I
No,
understand
I'll hold
correctly.
out. I'll hold out till the members are done.
Okay. Same with John Silvermoon. Are you hoping to speak as a member or as a board director?
Mauricio, in this section, the membership speaks and then the board speaks. The board doesn't speak in both.
All together. Gotcha. Okay. Okay, so I believe then all we have is directors on the stack. Is it okay? We move in then? Beautiful. In that case, then John Alexander, you're next.
Yeah, so I think a couple things are coming up, and one of them is that sometimes we've got motions on the table that we pass, and then we go back and reflect on those motions, and there's issues of interpretation of motions. So we need to continue to work on our motions a little bit. My understanding is that the second part of this is when an approved board motion allows a committee to have a closed session, that's the exception, right? So that would take into consideration issues, and those issues would then have to be approved by the board to allow for that closed session. That's the way I read that originally. So I don't really have, I understand the concerns about the issues, but I think that second part was a caveat. So when I'm done, I don't know if anybody wants to answer to that. But I think with regards to the other thing that just came up is that there's some exceptions to rules that only apply to some committees. I'm not aware of what those are. And I've been really trying to work, especially with my role on the diversity committee, to make sure that there are not, rules that apply to certain committees, unless those committees maybe asked for those. And so lastly, to kind of address John Silvermoon's earlier comment that all committees don't necessarily fit in the same box. I think that there is room, I hope, and my understanding is there is room that if committees might say, hey, we've gone through the practices, here's our report on the practices, and this is why we would like to not have this certain practice apply to us, that might be something that the liaison takes to the board, and then again, back to the treat, so we're very clear about why some committees might be operating in a different way. So policies, guidelines, we need to be very clear about what's a policy, what's a guideline. And then if a part of the policy is such that a committee operates a little differently and they've got good reason to, that we've got room to allow for that, different committees to, do what they need to do to best function under the charge that the board has given them. So with that said, that's again, more clarification that we need to do at the retreat. I think so that's just a comment. And then my question is that last statement, and this is for the motion makers, ensure the committees, whatever the piece was about board approval for a closed meeting, is the caveat that I think Sue was looking for in her friendly amendment as well. So a little clarity on that.
Thank you, John. John Silvermoon, please come in.
I guess I'd like to hear to answer to John's question. But so what constitutes a subcommittee? What constitutes a work group? Is two members of the committee charged with the task a subcommittee that has to put a notice of our meeting and have it be open and published, and minutes and board liaison present? I think we're going to need to define some of these. I mean, does Paxton and I getting together to talk about the process by which the board is going to coming up with a draft giving program guidelines? Is that a subcommittee that should have been posted? Are two committee members getting together to discuss a sensitive topic a subcommittee, a work group, if it's not a formal meeting? And and as far as there are several committees that discuss things that, I mean, archaeology, location of sites, that's sensitive information. I can't support this motion as currently written.
Thank you, John. Paxton, please come in.
This is one of those where I said that I was going to vote against it in the committee work group all the way up through this process. I do not think subcommittees should be in here. I really do not. I think that's a mistake. Another line I have a real problem with: any director may attend any closed session. I do not think that's appropriate either. I know many of the board does, but I do not think that's appropriate. There are times we should not be there in reality. And so I think specifying that it's one of the reasons I'm voting against it. I was kind of forced to go to a closed meeting, and I left the meeting, and then the coordinator of the meeting called me back because another board member had suggested that board members could be there. I felt very uncomfortable about that, to be honest. I think it was appropriate that I wasn't there. So this is one of the things I think that here, and I think this is very punitive in the sense of on closed meetings. I think it's just too much rules. I'm sorry, I cannot support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Paxton. Arna, please come in.
Well, as to the sensitive issues, I know of 4 committees that have to deal with sensitive issues. And, if it would make the board more comfortable, we could spell out those committees into this. The diversity committee has already been spelled out in a different motion from the board. And that is why that language was put into this motion about, you know, something, what was the language of when an approved board motion allows for a committee closed session. That was already done for the diversity committee, back, I think, at that February 18th meeting. Oh, and I see it's in the chat box has been put up. Lainey has put up something about an agenda about future meeting agenda items having to do with the best practices work group and things they should look at. But that's not really why I raised my hand. I really raised my hand because the sensitive issues thing is important. The craft committee and the food committee often have to talk about individual vendors or artists, and that should not be done in open meetings. It's just not appropriate. And I also think that the Jill Hyman Vision Fund and the endowment fund should not be having open meetings, that they it's appropriate for them to have closed meetings. So, you know, if the board is more comfortable spelling that out, then I guess we can do that. I guess, you know, I'm really one for transparency. I am very against closed meetings, but I do recognize that they have to happen sometimes and that we have to make a place for them and allow them to happen. I actually argued all along in the committee, in the work group, that we allow for sensitive issues to be a reason for closed meetings. I wasn't there the night that the proposal was voted on, and I don't believe Sue was there that night either. These were big concerns for us because I'm a liaison to the craft committee. Sue is a liaison to both craft and food, and I'm also with the Jill Hyman Vision Fund. So we really recognized these things. So I think it's really important to have something about sensitive issues for our committees. So I also think the whole thing, we do, you know, committees need to be able to do that, but closed meetings need to be regulated in some way because we don't want all committees to be having closed meetings. So we do have to have some way to regulate it. And this is the proposal that came up. So I think it's a good proposal and I hope that you'll vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Arna. Sandra, please come in.
Yeah, thanks, Arna. I agree. You know, I was going to mention some of the things that you just said, and I want to also make it clear here that for, you know, when talking about whether the best practices has gone beyond their mandate, they're in the motion that was approved when we were dealing with the diversity committee issues. The first part of the motion said the board directs the board directs board liaisons to ensure that all committees follow the most current committee best practices manual, essential and recommended practices. And those are pretty basic practices. And so I think that definitely was a mandate. And I do think that there were some things that some of the committees, one of the issues was that there are strictly board committees that are pretty clearly just board. And then there's some that are part board, part operations. And the ones that have an operational component do have different kinds of activities that they engage in. For example, you know, and I think that Sue and Arna both were very clear in letting us know that some of those are deciding on booth placement, if there's been some kind of behavioral issues that need to be discussed that really they function more in the operations zone than the policy zone, and that they needed to have the leeway to be able to do that. And that's where this friendly amendment came from, is to give them the room that they needed to do these things that are really should be confidential. I think everybody engaged in them would agree with that. So that's where this friendly amendment came from. And I think that we do have to give them that kind of leeway. And I think it's a good motion. I think it's good policy, and I hope you'll vote for it.
Thank you, Sandra. Lisa, please come in.
The committee best practices work group completed their charge when the committee best practices manual was submitted to the board and the board accepted it. There has not been a board motion and vote for the work group to reconvene and consider these questions. Just because the group has been meeting and considering these questions does not erase that fact. Based on the discussion for this this motion, I would like to consider adding these topics to the board work calendar for the upcoming board session, because clearly there's a lot more work that needs to be done here to get everyone on the same page. Thank you.
Maurizio?
Thank you, Lisa. Yes.
Can we do a time check? We said until 9:20. We're obviously you're not going to get through our agenda today. And so I think it's time for us to wrap this discussion up, get a vote, and then we need to plan for our next meeting so that the membership is aware of what's going to be on new business for our next meeting.
Okay, so then if I understand correctly, is that similarly to calling into the question, moving to the
Yes.
vote? Okay.
Yeah.
So
I'll call the question.
I'll second and we can vote.
All right. Let me just, for the sake of time, ask if we perhaps have unanimous consent. We do not. Okay, I'll move through each name. AJ.
Yes, remember this is to call the question, right?
That is correct, to call the question.
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Sue?
No.
Sandra?
Yes.
Paxton? Paxton? No, you're muted.
No.
Okay, Lisa?
Abstain.
Kevin?
Yes.
John Silvermoon?
No.
John Alexander?
Abstain.
George?
No.
Arna?
No.
Anne?
No.
Okay, so I believe that is a no-go, correct?
So with that said, our meeting has to end at certain time for sure. So in order for us to continue with this discussion, I will have to ask for more time. So I'm hoping that we could extend this meeting to 9:40 in order to wrap this discussion up and plan for our next meeting.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Paxton. On the extension of this meeting, do we happen to have a unanimous consent?
What's the details? How long?
Until 9:40. We do not. Okay, so I'm going to start calling for names. AJ.
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
Sue.
No.
Sandra.
Yes.
Paxton.
Yes.
Lisa.
No.
Kevin.
Reluctantly, yes.
John Silverman,
No,
John Alexander,
Yes.
George,
No.
Arna,
Yes.
Anne.
No.
Ooh, that was pretty close. That is a no go on the extension.
All right. So we need to wrap up our meeting. Um, we're in the middle of a discussion. I'm going to look to the parliamentarian to guide us if we're in the middle of a conversation or discussion about a point. What is the next move when our meeting needs to end?
If it gets to be 9:20 and we haven't voted to extend the meeting, we need to adjourn at 9:20 because that's what we voted to do. I would recommend that this motion be tabled until the next meeting. If somebody would do that, then we can continue the discussion at the next meeting. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Arna?
I'll move to table this to the next meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, do we happen to have unanimous consent?
I abstain.
Okay, then I'll move on to each name. AJ,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Sue,
I'm sorry, I need clarity on what we're voting on. I'm getting sicker by the moment, folks. I'm really sorry.
I'm so sorry, Sue. We are voting on tabling this until the next meeting.
You know, we
Yes.
don't usually vote on tabling. Once the maker
No.
of the motion is tabled, it's tabled.
It's, yeah.
So we don't vote on the tabling. That's the rest, you know.
The makers of the motion tabled it, so that is correct. We don't need to vote.
That's why I was confused.
Yeah, I'm so
Yes.
sorry. Okay, so then we're just moving to wrap up, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think we should have a motion to table the rest of the old business till next meeting. And then
I'll
we-
second that. I'll first it and somebody else can second it.
I'll second it.
I'll second that, but we do need to vote on that one, though.
No,
Yeah.
we
Why?
no, we don't.
Why?
Well, it's
Sandra?
Well,
it's Arna's motion and then my motion.
okay, guys, hold on just a second. Parliamentarian,
If each
do we
maker
need
of
to
the
vote
motion
on table?
next meeting, then we don't need any votes. If you want to table all of them in one lump tabling motion, then you need to vote. So if everybody will table their motions, we're done. We're ready to move on.
I will table my motions, which are the 3 best practices motions.
And I will table the elders motion
And
Do
a
they
quick
need seconds?
until next meeting, huh?
second, the quick correction, Arna, you're only tabling the last 2. We already voted on the first.
Oh, yes, you're
part.
right. Thank you, AJ. You're right. I'm only tabling the last 2. Thank you.
And we do not need seconds on the tabling, correct?
Right.
Okay, so do we now move then to table the rest
don't-
of it?
No, we don't have any. It's all new business is on new business. It'll be with old business next month. And then we don't have enough time for anything else.
President's speech.
Really?
President's
Yeah.
piece. Do you have a president?
Okay, I've got 1 minute for President's piece. I want to thank everybody that consistently shows up to these meetings. It is difficult at times and great at other times. I appreciate you continuing to be interested in the business of this organization. We need you more than ever. Keep your questions and keep your comments coming and vote, vote, vote. Thank you.
Don't forget September 11th, the next meeting. Right?
There you go. Thank you,
Thanks,
Mauricio.
Mauricio. You did a really good job.
I appreciate you. Thank you all for your patience.
You did, yeah.
Ring the bell, bring us out.
Ring
Right,
us out.
Here we go.
Ceremony, gotta have it.
Thank you all.
Thank you,
Good night.
Mauricio.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Mauricio.
everybody.
My pleasure.
See you,
Great
everybody.
job,
Bye.
Welcome,
Mauricio.
Mauricio. You're awesome.
Look forward to
Thanks,
having you
everyone.
Thank you.
next time, Mauricio.
Thank you, Mauricio. And by the way, that picture behind me is of the 200 plus shipwrecks at the mouth of the Columbia River along the North Oregon coast and the South Washington coast.
Thank you, Paxton. Curiosity satisfied. I appreciate you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Kirsten. And where's your suntan? Didn't you just get back from Hawaii?
Not in Eli.